You were born in 1210 in a soot-stained, chimneyless hut. Smoke stings your eyes. Welcome to medieval Rus. You are a Smerd, a peasant serf. Surviving until the age of 5 is a feat in itself. Your immune system is as resilient as Novgorod's spring mire. In the brutal fistfights on the Folkhof, your nose is shattered. Your face is set. Now you're a local. The boyars arrive for their tribute. You surrender your last sack of rye just to avoid being whipped to death. Your footwear, leather portiony. On ice and in mud, they slide better than any skates. Your rich diet, turnips, watery sky, and bread stretched with goosefoot. A knight's horse eats more calories than you do. Your armor, a nabivnik, a thick, quilted gambeson stuffed with tow. It might turn a sword. A spear will go right through. Your weapon, a heavy rogatina spear. Either you stop the cavalry, or the hooves will trample you into the dirt. You can't afford a sword, so you carry a common battle axe. It's perfect for splitting firewood and skulls alike. Your red shield, made of planks and leather, will splinter under the first real strike from a knight. Your enemy, the Western Knight. A steel-clad tin can atop a half-ton armored warhorse. Rumors drift in from the south. The Tatars have burned Ryazan. They haven't reached you yet, but it's no time to relax. Enemies are everywhere. Your wife hangs a wooden cross around your neck. The chances of it stopping cold steel are slim. You are drafted into the militia. The boyar's mounted Drazina looks down at you with contempt. You're just meat to them. Prince Alexander. He's only 20, but at 30, you're already facing retirement. He decides your fate. Peacetime? Hardly. You break your back in the fields from dawn till dusk, earning nothing but hernias and calluses. Camp life. You drink murky river water, risking death by dysentery before the battle even begins. For the slightest infraction, the Sotnik beats the peasants with sticks. Discipline is forged in fear and pain. Summer, 1240. Trouble arrives. Swedish ships have entered the Neva, intent on cutting you off from the sea. The alarm bell tolls. Drop the scythe, take up the axe. Your first real meat grinder begins. Summer, 1240. Pelgusi, the Azorian elder, reports, the Swedes are in the Neva. Your haymaking is cancelled again. Prince Alexander doesn't wait for the Vesh assembly to deliberate. You're sent on a forced march. You wear your feet bloody, shredding your portiony at the mouth of the Azora. The Swedish sneckers sit at the shore. The enemy is relaxed, confident in their impunity. In the center of the camp, the Swedish Jarl's silk tent glitters. You haven't seen that much silk in your entire destitute life. A sudden strike. You burst from the forest like wild beasts. Surprise is your primary weapon. Your task, chop through the ship's gangplanks. The Swedes scramble for the water, but you cut off their escape. An expensive Swedish sword rings against your axe. That blade is worth 3 villages, but your strike is heavier. The boyar Gavrila Aleksik charges his horse straight up a gangplank and onto a Swedish ship. The nobles love their flashy heroics. Gavrila is shoved into the river along with his horse. You smirk cynically. Chainmail at the bottom of a river won't save you from drowning. Prince Alexander duels the Swedish leader, leaving a spear scar on his face. They fight beautifully, these lords. The warrior Sava hacks down the golden tent's pole. As it collapses, you're already calculating the value of a scrap of that silk. The slaughter unfolds on the slippery clay bank. Heavy knights bog down in the silt, but your lapti, your bast shoes, are right at home. Infographic. You hack through the hulls of the Swedish ships with axes. Wood, water, and axes. This is the element of the Russian peasant. Panicked Swedes rush the surviving ships, hacking at the hands of their own men who fail to climb aboard. The battle is over. While the princes tally their glory, you quickly slip a silver ring off a Swede's swollen finger. The Swedes load their noble dead onto 2 ships and sink them. The rest of the rabble is tossed into a mass grave. Alexander earns the title Nevsky, the great hero of Rus. You earn a new hole in your kaftan and a hernia. In the autumn, the Novgorod boyars quarrel with Nevsky and exile him from the city. Heroes are only wanted when things are terrifying. The war is over. You return to your meager field to plow. If you don't finish before the rains, you'll starve in the winter. But the peace is short-lived. Grimmer news arrives. German crusaders have taken Izborsk. Soon, they'll be coming for you. The boyar Tverdilo has opened the gates to the Skavites. It's always the elites who betray, It's you who pays in blood. The Germans build coppery fortress right under Novgorod's nose. A foreign power now demands your tribute. The boyars, panicked, crawl on their knees back to Alexander. Without the prince, the Germans will strip them of their wealth. Nevsky returns and once again drives the militia toward death. A winter campaign is hell for a man in bast shoes. The march on Coppery. You drag sleds through waist-deep snow. Coughing and frostbite decimate the ranks. Coppery fortress, sharpened logs jutting from the snow. The Germans sit in the warmth. You sleep on the ice. The order to storm is given. No siege towers, no catapults. Your plan is simple. Hack at the palisade with your axe while arrows rain down. The Germans pour boiling pitch from the walls. A single cauldron turns a dozen militiamen into screaming torches. You batter the gates down with a raw log, splinters flying into your face. The way in is open, and it is slick with blood. Inside the fortress, it's a brutal, suffocating crush. German connects fight for their lives, but your axe knows no mercy. The fortress falls. The militia loots the German granaries. Salted pork tastes better than goosefoot. The prince sorts the prisoners. Noble Germans go to Novgorod for ransom. Common soldiers are whipped and driven off. But for the local VOD and Chud nobles who aided the Germans, there is no mercy. For treason, the noose. The traitors dangle in the wind. You watch them without a shred of pity. In war, only the strong are forgiven. Coppery is burned to the ground so that no Livonian dog will ever collect tribute here again. A return to Novgorod. A brief reprieve. But Pskov is still held by the Germans. The real carnage lies ahead. The fingers you frostbit on the march are turning black. You smear them with stinking goose fat, hoping the healers won't have to amputate. The prince stalls, waiting for his brother Andrei and the Lowland regiments. Without them, you'll be crushed. Finally, the Sesdalians arrive. Andrei's heavy cavalry. Polished steel and well-fed horses. Next to them, you look like a beggar. The army is assembled. The order, march on Pskov. The river ice is beginning to thaw. The greatest slaughter of your life is coming. Onward to Pskov. Snow mixes with mud into an icy slush. Your portioni have long since rotted on your feet. You strike Pskov with speed. The Germans never expected an advance in such treacherous conditions. Surprise is better than thick armor. The order's garrison is tiny. You break the gates with almost no bloodshed. Pskov is Russian again, but that doesn't keep you warm. 2 night votes are captured. They'll sleep on down duvets while awaiting ransom. You'll sleep in a puddle. The prince sends the Pskov traitors to Novgorod in shackles. Cutting down your own is always more personal than killing strangers. Pskov is ours, but the army is starving. You invade the lands of the bishopric of Dorpat. Time to plunder the Catholics. War is war, but dinner is on schedule. You seize a cow from a Chud peasant, the law of the strong. The prince sends Damash Tverdislavich's vanguard ahead to scout and loot. Standard routine. You sleep in the snow, hoarfrost coating your caftan. To stay alive, you sleep huddled together like swine. In the morning, the shattered remnants of the watch burst into camp. Damash is dead. The vanguard has been wiped out. The survivors scream that the order has mobilized its full might. The main German force is bearing down on you. Alexander is no fool. Fighting heavy cavalry in a forest is suicide. The order, immediate retreat to the lake. This isn't a maneuver. It's a panicked sprint through snowdrifts. The Germans are breathing down your neck. You break from the forest onto a vast, white expanse, the frozen Lake Peipus. There is nowhere left to run. Alexander chooses his ground at Raven's Rock, a high wooded shore at your back. The prince has driven you into a trap. You, the poorest Smerd with a club, are placed in the center of the formation, the cello regiment. You are the human shield, the bait. Behind you, they lash sleds and carts together, officially for defense, but really to ensure you can't run. All night before the battle, you obsessively sharpen your axe. It's all the hope you have left. Morning, April 5th. A tomb-like silence. The lake is swallowed by a thick, white fog. You can't even see your own hands. Then, the ice begins to tremble. It's no earthquake. It's half a ton of iron per hoof, coming for your soul. Eerie Latin chanting drifts through the mist. The Catholics are coming to save your soul with sharpened steel. The fog tears open. A steel pig advances, a wedge of armored demigods. You brace your ragatina against the ice and huddle behind your shield. Prayer won't save you now. Only a thick wooden shaft will. Impact. The crack of hundreds of splintering shields. The knight's spears rip through the front rank like rotten cloth. The man beside you is skewered. His hot blood sprays your face, freezing instantly in the wind. A destrier charges you. Half a ton of blind, mail-clad fury. To him, your shield is cardboard. You drive the ragatina into the horse's chest. The impact is so violent the shaft splinters and your joints howl. The wood snaps. The iron rider levels you with his shield, sending you skidding across the blood-slicked ice. The lake is now red and slippery with entrails. Finding your footing in rotted shoes is harder than surviving the blow. A sword bites into your chest. Your thick gambeson isn't pierced, but it buckles, snapping two of your ribs. In a blind rage, you seize the knight's iron stirrup and bury your carpenter's axe in his horse's leg. The steel-clad German crashes down. Encumbered by his armor, he flounders on the ice like a beetle. You throw yourself on him. A simple boot knife finds the vision slit of his helmet. A peasant's revenge. No time to celebrate. The rear ranks of the militia surge forward, trampling you into the bloody mire. The stench of battle, blood, sweat, open bowels, and horse manure on the snow. This is what hell smells like. The center is breached. The pig has punched through. You lie in the slush, praying the prince has a better plan. Behind the knights come the order's chud infantry. Peasants slaughtering peasants. An ordinary war. Your axe dulls against iron helmets. You can't breathe. Your lungs burn. Your arms feel like lead. You snatch a heavy mace from a dead German and swing blindly. You're bleeding out, holding the line against the order's wedge. If Alexander doesn't strike now, you're all dead. A horn blasts. Cavalry thunders from the flanks. Nevsky's trap has sprung. You've survived. The prince's brother, Andrei, hits the right flank with his Cisdalians, clad in steel. Infographic. While you absorb the blow in the center, the regiments executed a pincer maneuver. The order is trapped. The knights have no room to maneuver. Their long spears are useless in the crush. Europe's elite has become a panicked herd. Hooked gaffs come into play, dragging knights from their saddles like sacks of turnips. The German war horses, lacking ice studs, slip on the blood-soaked surface, snapping their riders' legs. The chud infantry breaks and runs. Peasants have no desire to die for their masters. The fallen knights suffocate inside their own closed helms, unable to rise. The remnants of the proud order retreat in a panic, fleeing straight toward the Sigovitsa, the area of thin ice. A terrifying sound, a thunderous crack, rips through the air. Lake Peipus demands its tribute. Infographic. A knight and horse weigh half a ton. The spring ice is 20 centimeters thick. Physics is the killer. The ice gives way. Massive white slabs tilt upward as dozens of armored men plunge into the black water. You can't swim in chainmail. 30 kilograms of steel pull Europe's elite to the silta bottom. A gauntlet hand reaches from the water, pleading. You simply nudge it back under with your spear shaft. Men use gaffs to pull German horses from the frigid water. A good horse is worth a fortune, but a German drowns for free. The screams fade. Only the groan of the ice remains. The order is crushed. You have survived the most horrific meat grinder of your life. The Druzina rounds up the noble knights. They're worth a fat ransom, though you won't see a kopeck of it. Your only prize, a pair of warm German boots stripped from a corpse. The pragmatic loot of a great victory. The army enters Pskov. Captive knights trudge behind the horses. The crowd roars, bells peal. All the glory of the savior of Rus goes to Alexander. Your name will never touch a chronicle. You thought the war was over? Naive. Back home, you're knee-deep in manure again, pulling the plow yourself because you lack a horse. By 34, you're an old man. When it rains, the ribs broken by that German sword ache so much you want to howl. 12:45, the alarm bell rings again. Prince Mindaugas of Lithuania is raiding Torzhok and Bezetsk. The lords need cannon fodder once more. The Lithuanians aren't like the slow, armored Germans. They're a wild, light cavalry. They torch villages and vanish into the woods. You don your old, scarred gambeson. The stuffing has rotted, but it's all a peasant has. Nevsky drives you in pursuit all the way to Toropets. Chasing light cavalry on foot is a special kind of misery. You catch them, and they turn to fight. Savages against beggars, the perfect match. A Lithuanian Silitsa, A short javelin slams into your shield, piercing the wood but miraculously missing your arm. Your heavy work axe shears through a light Lithuanian saber. A peasant's raw physics beats elegance every time. The Lithuanians are broken, the captives freed, and every scrap of looted gold is seized by the prince's men. The Novgorodians refuse to go further and head home, but Alexander takes his guard and presses on. You're stuck in the baggage train. While the elite fight, your job is to ensure their horses don't starve. At Lake Sitsitsa, the Drazina catches the enemy. You watch from a distance as the riders hack at one another. It's easier being a laborer. The Lithuanians are finally crushed. The prince feeds his ego. You only dream of sleep. A soldier's reality. Foul food, endless marches, bitter frost. By 40, your spine is dust. 1257. The horde demands its due. Mongol census takers arrive in Novgorod to register the population for taxes. A storm is brewing. Novgorod revolts. Peasants reach for their axes. You survive the Germans, and you won't be a slave to the Khan. But your former commander, Alexander Nevsky, returns with a punitive force. He is willing to slaughter his own to appease the horde. The prince orders the ringleaders' noses slit and eyes gouged out. This is your reward for faithful service at the ice. You, a veteran, are cut down by one of your own prince's men. He leaves you in the spring mud to bleed out like a dog. You fall. A hero's death, choking on blood while staring at the gold-embroidered boots of the men you protected your whole life. You stop breathing at 47. You die a rebel in the eyes of history, though you were only defending your bread. No honors. Your body is wrapped in rough burlap and tossed into a pit with the other executed insurgents. Not even a crooked cross marks the spot. The boyars order the graves leveled to erase the memory of the peasant uprising. The taxes remain. The boyars wring the last copper from your weeping widow to pay the Tatar tribute. Meanwhile, the elite feast. The princes toast to peace with the horde, paid for by your blood and your broken life. A monk records the tale. Alexander wisely pacified the mad rabble. History is the handmaid of the victors. All you leave your son is your old axe, an inheritance of poverty that will eventually force him to go and die just as you did. In a few years, he'll be driven into a new war for the interests of the Khan and the boyars. The wheel of samsara makes another bloody turn. Your life is over. Now, for the dry numbers, the grim analytics of your existence. The body count. 3 Swedes, 2 Germans on the lake, and 1 Lithuanian. 6 lives credited to 1 Smerd. War economics. A full suit of knightly armor costs 40 cows. Your gambeson and axe are worth 2 chickens and a sack of turnips. Mileage. You marched over 1,500 kilometers through mud, swamp, and snow. A Roman legionnaire would be envious. Energy output. On a winter campaign, you burned 5,000 calories a day, but ate only 100. You fought on pure grit and the Holy Spirit. Medical history. A broken nose, 2 missing teeth, 3 cracked ribs, and 3 frostbitten toes, with 0 hospitals. Your pension. Nothing. Your capital. A looted dagger, a pair of German boots, and a silver ring that will be seized for taxes. Reaching 47 in the 13th century is an anomaly, but the system found a way to kill you regardless. Your axe, worth a kopeck, 30% effective against German plate, but 100% effective against wooden shields. You were the perfect soldier, destitute, resilient, and free of charge. You saved Russ, and Russ never even noticed. The filmmakers lied to you. Forget the fairy tales and the textbooks. Let's take your old axe to these historical myths. Myth 1. Horned helmets. In combat, those giant horns would have snapped a knight's neck at the first blow. Reality. The smooth top film. Weapons are meant to glance off the steel dome, not catch on parade ornaments. Myth 2. Dog knights. No one in Russ called them that. It's a 19th century mistranslation from German. Myth 3. Armies of millions. In reality, the order's force in that slaughter consisted of about 40 brother knights and a few hundred connects. Fact. The Livonian rhymed chronicle confirms. 20 knights killed, 6 captured. For the European elite, that was a catastrophe. Myth 4. The massive collapse of ice in the center of the lake. 13th century chronicles are silent on this. The ice broke, but elsewhere. Fact. The Germans were pursued for 7 miles to the opposite shore, to the Sigovitsa where the ice was thin. That is where the retreating knights drowned. Myth 5. A fallen knight was as helpless as a turtle. Nonsense. A suit of armor weighed 25 to 30 kilograms and was perfectly balanced. Fact. They stayed down because the ice was slick with blood, their horses were dead, and an angry peasant with a knife was sitting on their chest. Now, a survival quiz. Question 1. What was a knight's primary weapon in a charge? A. Sword. B. Spear. You have 3 seconds. The answer is B. The spear. The sword came out only after the spear shattered against infantry shields. If you didn't know that, the crows are already picking at your corpse. Question 2. Who made up the bulk of the order's infantry? A. German mercenaries. B. Local Chud and Estonian tribes. The answer is B. The Chud. The knights were the officers. They used local conscripts to slaughter people exactly like you. Question 3. How old was Alexander Nevsky at the battle on the ice? A. 40. B. 21. The answer is B. He was only 21. While you were still learning not to drop a plow on your foot, he was crushing the elite of Europe. Fact. The Russian army was numerically superior. Alexander won with a brilliant plan, but also with the sheer mass of your bodies. Myth 6. Russian militia fought in thin white shirts. In winter, on the ice, you would have frozen to death before the Germans arrived. Myth 7. The battle saved Rus from annihilation. In reality, it was a brutal border conflict. The real threat lay to the east. History is cruel to romantics. The Pope declared the Northern Crusades, saving souls, was just a pretext for plunder. The Teutonic Order was a medieval megacorporation. They wanted your land, your labor, and your taxes. And Novgorod, a free republic, only for the wealthy boyars. To them, you were property. The Vesh bell didn't toll for your freedom. It tolled when the elite needed fresh meat. What happened to your axe? It was melted down for nails for a boyar's manor. Iron is worth more than memory. The knight's armor was sold. The rest rotted in the box. Time devoured the finest steel in Europe. Your bones dissolved in the Novgorod mud. No cross, no name. The perfect soldier for the empire. Alexander became a saint. The boyars got richer, and your son inherited the same cursed soil. The geopolitics of the 13th century. You stopped the West just so you could keep paying tribute to the East. A cruel irony. The Neva, Coppery, Peipus. For the chronicles, they are epics. For you, they were blood and wet boots. No one paints masterpieces of peasants dying from dysentery. Heroism only looks good on parchment. Was it worth it? Yes. You defended your scrap of earth. It was a filthy hunt, but it was yours. The price of history isn't the gold of lords. It's the rivers of sweat and the broken backs of nameless men. I fought my war. My axe has rotted, and the ice of Lake Peipus melted long ago. But war never changes. Only the banners and the armor. Cannon fodder is the same in every age. History is written by princes, but it is paid for by men like you.